What is good, strategic family? It is your boy Xavier back with another video. Today we're going to be talking about how to make yourself recession proof. Now, as of May 2025, we are not in a recession officially. The government has not issued any type of statement saying that we are in an economic recession. But if you take the temperature of the room, how your neighbor's feeling, how your cousin's probably feeling, gas prices have been up for the past couple years. The prices of food is outrageous. There's, people used to say it's cheaper to cook at home. Now they're saying it's cheaper to go out. But I'm sure, as you know, it's all pretty expensive right now. So we're going to be looking into the specifics of the numbers, the unemployment rate, the grocery rate, because it actually is quite surprising. It's kind of like a direct contrast to what everybody feels it is like right now. It certainly does feel like everything is expensive, but we're kind of just cruising at average, slightly above average. We're going to get into all that, but more importantly, towards the end of the video, we're going to be talking about what you need to do to protect yourself and your family from any type of economic downfall. The mindset that you need to kind of take on, and also the practical things that you need to be doing in case we are blown into a recession. Because at this point we've had two different presidents, and the economy is just still kind of in a state of fluctuation, and also with the tariffs, things are looking even a little bit more unpredictable, I should say. So I just felt that this video was warranted, something I wanted to talk about. I've been doing some research, so hopefully you guys can get some type of knowledge and use out of this. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Alright guys, what if you lost your job tomorrow? Would you be prepared to provide for your family, pay your mortgage, pay your car note, buy groceries, or maybe even afford the luxuries that you're used to? I don't know your financial position. You may be able to do all that and more depending on any economy, so who knows. But let's talk about it. We said we were going to go into the specifics. Let's go into them. So the national unemployment rate right now is 4.2%, which is relatively low. It is 0.2% higher than last month, which was April 2025, but still relatively low. Now, it is being suggested that we are in a low hire, low fire rate right now. So people are not, getting laid off at a crazy rate that throws everybody into a panic, but also people are not really getting hired like that. I know a lot of people, when I'm seeing around the social media, that the job market is really tough right now. I'm seeing pilots not being able to get a job, newly graduated pilots not being able to get a job. So these companies are not in a rush to hire, but as we mentioned, there's not a major layoff epidemic going on right now. So we're kind of just cruising, right? But it has been the truth for, I don't know, like the past 10, 15 years, that whether the job market is good, if unemployment is low or not, the cost of living is just extremely high. And, the wages that are being paid, especially in the South, are just not, they're not sufficient to cover even a decent lifestyle. Even if you're one person, if you're let's say you're even a college graduate, it's your first job out of university, more than likely, maybe depending on your degree, but more than likely you're not getting a job that's going to be able to maintain a regular lifestyle. I'm talking one bedroom apartments in Florida where I live are going for $2,800. So even though the average says, or the unemployment rate is reflecting a pretty decent job economy, the jobs have never been that great. I'm not complaining. That is just a general statement, because as I was going through these numbers, it just doesn't seem right. Because even people that I know that are relatively wealthy, there's still like so much uncertainty going on right now. But let's move on. Okay, let's talk about the cost of living, right? So as of 2025, the cost of groceries is just above slightly average for the past 20 years, but I'm sure you can agree it does not feel slight. So let's go into a couple of these specific numbers, okay? As of May 2025, grocery prices are rising at a pace slightly above average, like I said. So the consumer price, guys, the consumer price index, the CPI for food at home, has rose 2.5% over a year. That doesn't sound crazy, but let's get into these specific numbers, okay? So eggs have surged by a historical 60.4%. Now, that is, obviously due to the bird flu that is going around as these past 5 years, but that is still a crazy amount, and is, putting a lot of people in a position where they cannot buy eggs. for their family. Okay. Now, beef has increased by 8.6% and veggies by 3%. So all around the board, the cost of food has gone up. Now, people will make the argument that it needs to be shifted to. Some people would say that it is cheaper to eat out, and as of right now, people need to make the shift and start eating out. Look, I live on the road, so I eat out pretty often, like 3 to 4 days a week. And I'll say, guys, it is no different eating out. On the low side, for a single size, a single medium combo meal on the low end, you are paying $11, but on average, I would say it's probably like $13 to $14. Don't even get me started on Chipotle, because they should be in prison for the amount of money that they're charging for a burrito. I mean, let's not even get into it. But all that to say that, whether you get groceries or you're eating out, it's all pretty expensive right now. The numbers don't really reflect that. Well, the eggs do, obviously, but it is making it a point for people to start budgeting. There's no way, especially if you have kids, 3, 4 kids, you have a decent job, or maybe you're the only person working in the household, you have to start budgeting. And maybe 5-7 years ago, you could kind of just, buy food and not really think about it. But at this point, you kind of have to plan before your week, or you're going to go broke just on food alone. So food is kind of a big deal right now within the economy. Okay, so according to move.org, the average price for groceries per household per year is $6,053. Now, as we go through the introduction of these tariffs, it is projected that price can go up by as much as $4,059 per year, which is insane, if habits are not changed. Now, that can be dropped to about $2,000 if you make the change. So we mentioned before, maybe 5-10 years ago, you can get away with eating out 5 times a week, and still grocery shopping. But when these tariffs are introduced, that's not really going to be an option anymore. So budgeting, planning out a grocery list is going to be very necessary. Okay, so do some self-reflection. Make sure you are planning ahead and get ahead of this before it really hits. So let's talk about the ways that you can be recession proof. What are the things? What should you do? I'm spilling out all these facts, but what to do? Let's talk about it. Okay, so what to do? Panic? No. Pivot? Yes. All right. So what did we just talk about? Changing up your eating habits, budgeting food, right? But there's other things. Canceling unneeded subscriptions. That includes Netflix, HBO, whatever is necessary. Like at the end of the day, this is all relative to you. But if you're a middle class household, and you're looking at grocery prices, and you're looking at gas prices, and your car note, you haven't been able to pay your car note, your mortgage is stacking up on you, you don't need the Netflix, you don't need the HBO, you probably don't even need the gym membership, if I'm being honest. These are the type of maneuvers that need to be made in times of a recession, but it's only temporary, guys. It's only temporary, but if it's necessary, definitely do it. So what are some other things that I have here? Focus on income and spending. Now, that is kind of an obvious thing, but you would be surprised about the amount of people who try to get a second job or try to start a side hustle, which is all good things and something that I would suggest and that I'm trying to pursue as well. But they do all that and still go and spend $300 at the mall on an impulse. You know what I'm saying? So like, the spending part is a really, really hard thing for Americans to swallow. We are a consumer-based country, and I don't think 90% of people in this country budget at all, but it's just something that we haven't experienced. My generation hasn't experienced like a real recession ever. So it's something that you're either going to be prepared for, or you're going to be made a lesson. But yeah, guys, like I just mentioned before, try to start a side hustle. You never know what can spur out of just a kind of random venture, something that you've been wanting to pursue that maybe you can monetize. One thing is for sure, a lot of people got rich during the COVID depression, right? millionaires, billionaires were born during that time span where everybody was getting laid off and unemployment was at like a 38.9%. People got very rich during COVID. I saw it with my own eyes. A lot of that is, due to just outside ventures, but the other thing I want to talk about here is investing. Basically, the stock market is our biggest indicator for knowing if we're in recession or not. The government, the district attorney could come out and say whatever, but that market pretty much lets us know where we're at as far as an economic standpoint. So with that being said, if the market is low, that means stock prices are lower than usual, and if you're in a position to buy, you should. Lastly, the psychological fortitude, the mental part of a recession. The Great Depression was called a Great Depression not only for the depression of the economic fortitude of the country, but also people's mental statuses. There's always people that the percentage of suicide always goes up remarkably during times of economic depressions, and it is definitely, financial stress is probably one of the worst things that a human responsible for other humans can feel, because there's just so much at risk, and there's just so much pressure and that you can't get away from, right? So just remember that the economic losses, it's not your fault, okay? Obviously, if you're the leader of your household, you're responsible for other people, it's going to feel like, it's going to be a burden, don't get me wrong, but it's going to feel like it's your fault. It's not. However, it is your fault if you do not create a plan and try to be some type of adaptable. In times like this, and like I said, I want to keep saying we are not officially in a recession, but you have to be thinking forwardly. Okay, so plan now and adjust now. If you're living a lifestyle where you're getting your house clean 2 times a week by some servants or some maids, maybe cut that back to 1 or none time. Take over the responsibility of cleaning up their living room, and do what you need to do to be recession proof. So that's all for me. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you in the next video.
Do you want to know what it is?